Welcome to another episode of Legal for Tech, the podcast. So, guys, as I've said many, many times, it's always Rosie here. And finally, we are back on the Legal for Tech podcast because we've had a bit of a break. We are, as always, a group of students and young professionals who are very interested in anything that has to do with technology. And yes, it's regulation. And today on the podcast, as always, my co-host and great producer of the show. Hi, Giacomo. Great to see you.
After a long time. Hi, Rosie. Great to
It's
see you as
it's
well.
been a bit, but we are super happy to start again. It seems that every time we have to start again something with the podcast, this guest joins us to see us and to help us understand what's happening at the European level with anything that has to do with AI and regulation. So welcome on the podcast, Joost Gerritsen. It's great to see you.
Hello, Rosie. Thank you. It's great to be here on this sunny day, at least in the Netherlands.
It is in Leipzig as well, although it's very cold and we don't understand why. There's like this kind of like wind from the north. A wind from the north that I'm told has been happening a bit in Brussels as well, because let's say that the Commission and the Parliament froze their talks. So maybe they're cold. Who knows?
That's a
Um,
nice bridge. Yeah, yeah.
It's all to say that today we will be talking about, well, what everyone is basically talking about, which is the digital omnibus and the conversations that are going on, the discussions, and potentially the breaking of a deal that, has still has yet to be happening. So we are all very kind of holding our steer and trying to see what's going to happen next. So Joost, just going a bit back to who you are. I mean, I'm sure that our listeners know everything about you by now, also because you're one of our sponsors. But just very, very quickly, just could you tell our listeners what you do and potentially introduce DigiBeetle?
Rosie, for introducing me. For the people listening, watching, my name is Joost Gerritsen, CEO of DG Beetle. Indeed, proud sponsor of this wonderful podcast. I think maybe I'm biased, but I'm also trying to say this objectively as possible. This is one of the best podcasts dealing with legal matters and try to translate them in a more, how to say, practical way. So you can listen to this podcast in the train, in your car, whenever, wherever. And I think it's a great way to start your working day as a legal professional. So I'm really glad to be here again. And about DG Beetle, yeah, for those who don't know, it's an online knowledge platform for people like you and me, data protection professionals, legal professionals who have to deal with legal issues surrounding AI, technology, data, you name it. And I think we all know this feeling. It can feel a bit too much. All this information, new cases, new legislation, new decisions by the EDPS, EDPB, etc. And we try to assemble all those information on our data in a practical manner, the same way you guys try to convey complex matters in a simple and understandable way. So yeah, please visit if you want dgbeetle.eu, and yeah, you can sign up for a free trial and experience our platform yourself. So hopefully I see you there.
Our
And
listeners will
we,
find, yeah, Jack, you can say
no,
it
no.
because you've done it.
No, no, and we try to do that to explore these complex topics also thanks to our host like you. And we hope that everything is always clear. And yeah, as you said, like a lot of things are going on at the moment. But today we want to focus on the digital omnibus, as Rosie was saying at the beginning. So could you tell us, like, what are the current developments, the latest developments? Because we know that something happened, especially
Yeah,
tonight, this morning. Depends
yeah.
how you see it.
I always have the highest respect to the Brussels, they say, people who are working in policy and at those institutions. Why? Because more often than not, they have to work deep into the night. When we're all asleep, they are still negotiating with each other. That's what happened last night on the 28th of April of this year. Negotiations broke down, negotiations between Commission, Council of Ministers, European Parliament, negotiating about, yeah, that's the whole topic, making the AI Act more workable for businesses. At least that is the promise. And maybe before I talk about what happened last night and why those negotiations stalled or broke down, let's take a step back and tell the listeners about, of course, not the whole history of the AI Act, but I think you should know that the AI Act entered into force less than 2 years ago, on the 1st of August 2024. Normally, you would say, okay, that's nice. We discussed with each other on a legislative level how a law should look like. We have all these checks and balances in place. Ta-da, there's the law. It enters into force. And more often than not, there are several deadlines to take into account, but that's that, right? At least that's what I thought. And I think many professionals along with me, up until last year. Yeah, I think it was it November? November of 2025. Yeah.
It's the 19th of November, and I know because it's holiday in Saxony. So wasn't my greatest.
Why does Brussels always publish important documents on holidays or just before Christmas? Okay, but that's a story for another time. So I feel with you, Rosalia. I experienced it as well. But no, what happened is that the Commission published a press release about the so-called digital omnibus on AI. And to me, it was a surprise. Well, a bit yes, a bit no. Why not? Because I think via journalists and parliamentary affiliated people, the text of the Commission document was already leaked, or in part. That's why we knew something was up. But yes, it was still a surprise to me that apparently the Commission thought we should open up the AI Act, even though it was finalized. There are several topics in it. We should change it. And why? Because that would be better for businesses. Okay, that's what they promise. If they live up to the promise, we shall see, and probably we'll discuss that during this podcast. But that was November 2025. People, me included, were skeptical because, okay, why are we opening up the AI Act? It has been finished less than 2 years ago. And if we do, because apparently that was the plan, that is the plan. How should we deal with it democratically? And what happened? So-called trilogue started, and that's the basic, how to say, the most common way for EU legislator to reach a law, to bring a law to the finish line. And trilogue means 3 main legislative forces discuss with each other: Commission, Council of Ministers, which is like a party, so to speak, of all the presidents and the prime ministers of the EU, and the EU Parliament also has a say. So those 3 institutions, they talk and talk and talk. On LinkedIn, you can see the progress. There are publications about it, people who are on top of things. They tell us about, this is the discussions are leading this way, that way. And everybody was expecting, fast forward to yesterday or today, that we would have a press release. It was actually already scheduled in the Commission's agenda. Journalists were already invited. And the idea was that during the press release, they would tell us the conclusion of their digital omnibus trilogue discussion. So we would know whether or not, or when, for example, the deadline regarding high-risk AI systems would be there. Is it 1 of August? Is it later? Is it next year? We don't know. This is just one of the items of the digital omnibus package. But like I said, the press conference was cancelled for now, because last night the negotiations stalled. And what does, why? It is not entirely clear. The left is accusing the right. So left politicians are accusing right politicians of deliberately breaking down these negotiations. EU Active, excellent site, website, by the way, there's a good article on this. titled "Left-Wing Lawmakers Blame Commission for Stalled AI Reform Talks," and they see it as a as a German EPP coup. And EPP, that's the European People's Party, Christian Democratic Conservative Parliamentarians. And yeah, so that's what's happening right now. But before I continue with all my stories, I was wondering, how do you see this? Was this for you a surprise that these negotiations stalled, or maybe not? Maybe yes.
I have to be honest. Potentially the stalling. I mean, it has been kind of envisaged by either party. We also had someone on the podcast who worked on the AI Act, and at the time was one of the main negotiators, Laura Caroli. And she was a bit skeptical, I would say, that everything would like set foot and go forth without any issues. I would say probably the division within the parliament between left and right was probably not expected. There is always political division, but I would say it's not very easy to hear the parliament disagreeing on political lines, especially when it comes to news about technology and AI. I think we are much more used to hearing, oh, the German part of the parliament was going against the French one, or like, I'm just, it was random, or the Hungarians are blocking everyone from doing anything. Again, it was random. No, but I would say like it's much more the parliament is much more portrayed potentially on the media, and maybe we should ask the media why this happens. It's much more portrayed as being a matter of nationality, and when it's political divisions, it's usually the far right against the rest of the parliament. I would say it's probably one of the first times, maybe maybe I haven't been paying enough attention, that it's really like the left against the right, in the sense of it's a matter of how the important fundamental rights are perceived, rather than whether they are perceived or not, which I think is quite an interesting take.
Yeah, and
this time.
it is, if I understand correctly, so because that would be indeed interesting. So why are these both sides of the aisle accusing each other? My hunch would be indeed it has to do something with fundamental rights. Maybe it does at its core, but right now it's being sold as a discussion, really technical discussion, at least to me. I already knew or recognized, Rosalia, that you know this better than me. But yeah, if I understand correctly, you have this thing called sectoral laws. Maybe those who work in EU law know this already, that a lot of product categories have their own laws, like toys and machines, aircraft, automotive, right? And but what we always also see, and I think Rosalia, is that not one of your specialty, AI and automotive, right? That's connected cars. Yeah. So, okay, please correct me if I'm wrong, or add your insights. These products are getting smarter and smarter. Why? Because of AI. So you have the smart Barbie doll, you have a connected car, Tesla, filled with AI. And of course, from the perspective of, let's say, the car maker and the toy maker, they are getting a little bit scared because, they already have to adhere to a lot of specialized laws aimed at their product category. But with the AI Act, it would mean that they would also have to comply with the entire AI Act, which, of course, from their perspective, is not really what they are waiting for. They want as less rules as possible. And the reason why the trilogue stalled or broke down, in the media, it has been said that this is the point of discussion, that Parliament, to my surprise, hopefully I understand this correctly, Parliament says, yeah, it's okay to have those toy makers and automotive makers, that they would only have to deal with their own sectoral laws. And they, of course, those sectoral laws can have some elements of AI regulation, could very well be, but those specific categories of products should not have to be obliged to comply with the entire AI Act. That's the discussion point. And For me, it was a surprise, but because normally I think the parliament is really in the same line of how to say society. They want to promote protection and promote people as much as possible. And if there's a way, yeah, almost for more regulation, yeah, they are in favor of it. But now it seems that the parliament says no, we should leave those sectoral car makers, toy makers, machine makers, etc. We should leave them alone and should not bother them with the AI Act. And that was, for me, it was surprising, but maybe it's not surprising. I think, Osilia, before the show, you said something important that, yeah, there are a lot of right-wing kind of parties in parliament. So maybe that explains this switch. And they are actually backed also by Mr. Merz from Germany, who supports them with this view. But maybe, yeah, you can say something insightful, perhaps with regard to the automotive sector.
Actually, when the Parliament proposed its amendments to the Commission's proposal, so that must have been around, I think, January, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of the amendments proposed, yeah, there was a lot to do with CSAM, for example, so the sharing of AI-generated pornographic material. And if I'm not mistaken, that actually went through, like that was implemented. There was a lot to do with the protection of children, the protection of women. And then a lot of comments, and I remember like vividly that some of them were kind of like bundled together. So like you could see that there was more than one parliamentary kind of grouping, and from more than one nation actually. They were going in the direction of slimming down regulation, helping the SMEs and the manufacturing that comes from Europe. And it was actually very interesting from my perspective, because there was a lot to do with Italy, which I was completely confused to see as being so vocal in the parliament. That shows how much faith I have in my country. But a lot of there was a group of Italian parliamentaries that were making really good points on the sense that if a company has to comply with very strict conformity assessments that are linked to the various sectoral regulations you were talking about, I'm thinking about the car, potentially the vehicle, general vehicle framework, I think it's called, and then also has to comply with the AI Act, the risk, and for each AI system that it deploys, the risk that the amount of red tape fully blocks any type of innovation in Europe is quite high. Companies are already facing interesting and incredible kind of red tape blocks and also fines and fees. Like if we think of, for example, of European cars that are produced, say, in Germany, they actually have to pay a lot of, for example, tariffs, because some of the cars are produced, say, in China and then have to come to Europe. So they're already facing a lot of burden when it comes to dealing with the amount of things they have to comply with. And if you also ask them to comply with the AI Act, that can be burdensome. So I see the point of the Parliament, of course, not to talk about the whole medical device sector, because I'm considering also that a lot of European importers take medical devices from abroad, say the US, and then like make them Europe friendly, let's say, conform to European laws. The burden on these importance and on car manufacturers and on device manufacturers and on toy manufacturers in the European Union could be really, really strong when it came to complying with the AI Act as well. The only thing that I would say is that I do not believe that sectoral regulation is nearly enough to get to the level of protection that the AI Act asks for. So that's a question, like, are we fine? Like, do we believe that at the end of the day, we have to kind of constrain the effect of a misuse of AI systems a bit more when it comes to like when they deal a lot with people? So for example, when they are employed in the labor sector, in the employment sector, or in education, are we okay with the AI Act being potentially mostly focused on that? Or are we saying, well, if we ask for the same level of safety, then it should be a blanket thing? Because I think that that's a matter of like what we are interested in. It's pointless to lie that it's the same level of protection. I see the point of the parliament, but then it's more of a question, what do Europeans want?
Yeah. I think. Thank you very much, Rosie, for
I'm
your.
sorry for the long.
No. Because now I'm trying to. I think I understand it now. And would you agree if it boils down to the question whether or not we want products, and I would say almost all products, because all important product categories in Europe have their own EU laws, right? Everything that has a real impact on people if they are unsafe or unhealthy, for example, like you said, medical devices or cars or toys, we want them to be safe. So the question boils down to, do we want to regulate AI in those products by the AI Act or not, right? And to me, at least, if you agree, if that's the question, to me it's a bit strange that less than 2 years ago we said yes, those products should be covered by the AI Act, and now we say, at least Parliament says, no, they should not. Then why the I shouldn't curse on podcasts. Why the did Parliament vote in favor then 2 years ago, or more than 2 years ago? For me, it's not really about. I'm really curious how you guys see this. For me, I'm a bit neutral if it comes to the route we take. Okay, either products fall within the scope of the AI Act or they don't. Okay, whatever. But I'm a bit agitated or cranky about this whole process that, hey, no, there's a law, and now we're already meddling with it. And the parliament is acting like, yeah, this is good for businesses. Yeah, okay, but why didn't you say so 2 years ago? Do you have any ideas about this?
I have a very orange idea, and I think you can probably guess who am I referring to.
Yes,
Uh,
very
2 years
orange.
ago, orange idea was not there, or it looked like it wouldn't be there again. I do strongly believe that the current global situation potentially pushes countries and nations into wanting a type of European growth that potentially a couple of years ago, I wouldn't say it had been set aside, because I don't see that as the truth, and I do not see the AI Act as hindering growth. But I do think that a couple of years ago, there was a lot less frenzy and a lot less panic that in a month's time, flights wouldn't really bring people between Frankfurt and Brussels because there's not enough fuel. And that, like, I think 7 or 8 Italian airports got basically shut down because no more flights can go there. I mean, would you have thought about that 2 years ago?
No. It's amazing how much already has changed in such a short time. And I thought, but maybe I don't divert a little bit. It's also scary about if you think about how easy people get used to it. Oh, this is like the new reality. And perhaps there's something in me that says, no, but we established reality 2 years ago, and we should not meddle with it. That's. I think that strategy not always works. Sometimes you have to react to what's happening around you. But I'm left with the feeling that the AI Act was never able, or to really we haven't evaluated it. It was not given the chance to see whether or not it is effective, to see whether or not indeed, as the people from the EPP say, the Europeans, the European People's Party. Okay, that's it. Whether or not indeed it hinders innovation could be true. I don't know, but I think the time. It's less than 2 years. Neither side of the aisle can say I'm right or you're right, or you're wrong, I'm right, because the time, it's just too soon. But yeah.
I would like to dispute on this. It's just too soon. It's not even happened
Oh
because
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
find hilarious, and I really and I don't mean to sound harsh on this, but I find hilarious when they say, "Oh, the A Act entered into force in 2024." Technically, none of like very little of its obligations actually became enforceable. Like even the prohibited systems one, the one that entered into force in February 2025, we still haven't seen any enforcement of these provisions. Not to mention that the high risk ones, I mean, they're simply not there. I
Yeah.
mean, Article
Yeah.
6 is not there. We haven't seen Article 6 working. We haven't seen any conformity assessment under Article 43.
You're this
Not
is
there.
I think this is a really good remark, and I think you're right to remind me and maybe some members of the audience as well that indeed some articles haven't even applied yet. I want to say something about that. Yeah, and they're already talking about shifting deadlines regarding high risk AI. It was scheduled for August, this August, right? And now they're thinking about now 2027, 2028. Oh yeah, now I remember what I wanted to say. The standards, right? This is of course also a topic. The AI Act heavily relies on harmonized standards regarding high-risk AI systems. For example, how should you organize human intervention? How should you mitigate discrimination, bias risks in your data sets? Very important topics. And they have been shifted to the so-called standardization organizations. They are talking with each other and trying to figure out how on earth can we devise such standards, because we have to imagine that standards are really on the most detailed level how you should do something as a deployer of a high risk AI, or someone who markets such systems. And to be honest, I'm glad that I'm not standing in their shoes. For me, it would be almost an impossible task. I don't think it can. I don't think it can be done writing standards to everybody's satisfaction in relation to, for example, how to mitigate bias in a data set. I don't think it can be done. The minute you write something, it's already outdated, I think. But those standards are not there. So to be honest, I understand the whole discussion about shifting, postponing deadlines, because companies are like, yeah, okay, sure, I want to comply, but where are the standards? They tell us in the most detailed form how to comply. So I understand that discussion. But still, it's a bit, I think that the whole way this is going, it's not favorable to how people see the legislative procedure in Brussels. People are right to say in this case, oh yeah, the politicians in Brussels, they are just doing whatever they want, where they make a law and they within 2 years they already want to meddle with it. And I love Europe too much to give people who don't like Europe ammunition for their arguments, right? So that's why I'm a bit I wish this had been done in a more democratic way, and not out of the blue with this press release, and not because of the orange man who wants
I
this, because that's also something playing in the background. Yeah.
I I personally think like I mean we have seen another country that has actually made the law enforceable, which is drumroll South Korea, which was the first one actually. I mean, they didn't come with the basic AI law act straight away as we did. We were the first ones actually envisaging a law. We were the first ones, the Europeans. Yes, after the GDPR, we're super cool. But then actually the South Koreans were the first ones that actually made the law enforceable. Very interestingly, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but
And
I
how
would
is it
like,
going in South Korea? Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Do
I
you know?
mean, right now, no big scandals from what I see. There have been discussions to slow down some of the enforcement. But for the rest, it sounds like, I mean, they're managing, they're seeing how it goes. And that's why my question comes in, because you probably remember it better than I do. When the GDPR came into force, were the standards already there? Where everyone ready to start with complying with the GDPR?
Yes. Oh, that's a very good question. I think that yes, there were standards. If I'm now inclined to go to DG Beetle. Now, this is not a tie-in to words to search for the word standards in the GDPR. Hey, Peter, we have how this is called not a photo bomb but a podcast bomb.
He's a podcast bomber. Hi, Peter.
For those who do not see
Ladies and
this,
gentlemen, Peter Hansen.
Peter Hansen, living legend from Germany. He just said hi on the podcast. No, the GDPR, I think two big differences between the AI Act and the GDPR. Well, there are a lot of differences, but I think the ones are relevant is GDPR had a predecessor, the Data Protection Directive. So we had experience, at least since 1995, some countries even before that, how to deal with laws surrounding personal data. And during that time, standards were already developed. At least in the Netherlands, you had these data security standards. What was it again? 27,001, 2. Well, this is something for me. It's always been a blind spot because I stick to the legal text. But no, actually, also, by the way, I don't want to promote things, but I keep promoting stuff. Your book, sorry, the book of Peter Hansen and his colleague about the AI Act has a lot of references to standards.
The AI Act Compact, yeah.
Yeah, AI Act Compact. And so the standards were always there, but regarding the GDPR, even if you, as a thought experiment, do not think about the standards, we had a lot of experience about regulating personal data. And the GDPR was like more, for me at least, cherry on top, formalizing case law, formalizing things we already did for years and years. So for me, when I read the GDPR, save from a few articles, it didn't really contain that much surprising articles. No. But AI Act, totally different. We have never in Europe regulated AI systems in the same manner we do now. So what did the legislator do? Because, by the way, I highly respect to the legislator or the people involved writing the AI Act, because again, it would be a huge task if someone says to you, hey, do you want to, no, not do you want, no, you must write a law on AI. Where do you begin if you get that task assigned? Well, logical thing to do is browse, I think, EURLEX, go to legislation, and you scroll through the laws, and you would see, what do we have? Well, I see a lot of product relating laws. And yeah, AI feels like a product, at least it's not tangible, but it can be packaged as a product, a service. So why not get inspired by those product laws? Which they did. So now we have an AI Act regulating AI systems as if they are tangible products, which they are not. And that's where the problems arise, because AI, unlike, let's say, a coffee machine, if we are regulating a coffee machine as a product, of course, there's more to it, but summarized, the main thing we have to think about is safety, whether or not the coffee machine, it should not explode in your face when you make coffee. It should comply, or how to say, work with the European electricity network and more of those things. But it's all about safety. But if we talk about AI systems, it's not only safety, it's also about health. Right? AI systems in medical devices can be detrimental to your health, or other examples are you can think about. And next to that, that's the most complicated topic of all. It has to comply with fundamental rights. So you have safety, health, and those two components we have quite some experience with. Also, from a regulatory point of view, but protecting fundamental rights in relation to a product such as AI systems, wow, that's totally different ballgame. I think that's what the EU legislator at some point also realized. And then he or she thought, let's move that discussion. How should we regulate it in detail to those standardization organizations? And to me, I understand why they did it, because it's in line with the product. I say that the way product regulations are drafted. But in reality, it's almost undoable. And I think that's the main difference. So why am I telling this? We are still learning, and it's too soon to open up a law which hasn't had the chance to prove itself. And kudos to South Korea. I did notice, that they were the first ones, and they're not complaining. At least we don't know. Maybe should
But
have a
maybe you should learn
professional from
South Korea.
Korean. Yeah.
We should, you know who I'm thinking about, Jack, because I see your face glimmering now. Because we've had someone from South Korea talk on podcast, and I'm a great fan as well. So I will probably get in touch with him. Is Chum Sik Hu, and he's an amazing person, an amazing professional. But back to the story. I agree with your point in saying that like a risk-based approach under the European version and vision of risk, because we're talking about safety, we can see it in the Product Liability Directive as well. There's this idea of safety. It's an all-European conception of the liability and the responsibility for making products fit. It's different, for example, in under common law systems. So it's really a whole European problem. And I agree with you that like it doesn't fit to the whole of AI. And I would like to point out that I think it's hilarious how majority of the population in the European Union, and I think abroad as well, potentially also in South Korea, when they think about AI, they probably think about ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. Someone help me, because otherwise I'm biased. Meta AI, XAI, blah blah blah, Grok, and
DeepSeek, maybe
things.
Chinese.
Quen, yeah, yeah. I think we cited them, almost all of them. And I think it's hilarious how that's what comes to mind of the average person, us included. But actually, AI is used in a variety of sectors and under a variety of clothing, I would say. And at the time that the AI Act passed, I mean, generative AI models weren't even a thing. They were a very small thing, a very small problem that was mostly concerned with dealing with data. I mean, the majority of the discussion in that regard was about making the data on these models fair, fit, compliant with the GDPR, non-personal, and potentially not copyrighted, but we're still working on that one. I think it's very important to see that when the AI Act was passed, and ever still, a lot of AI technology has nothing to do with generative AI. And I agree with you that risk-based approach does not work well with generative AI and with a lot of recommendation systems, for example, that are also excluded by the AI Act.
I think this is a very good point. When I think of it, you're totally right. Most people not only think about generative AI when they hear the term artificial intelligence, but they also work with it. And from what I've seen, just looking around, the level of adoption is children use ChatGPT, but also elderly people in a manner, and I'm really astonished, like they have always used it before, right? Because it's so intuitive, and you can use it for every question you want.
It's a conversation.
Conversation tool, and that's something we underestimated. At least I did. Not anymore, but back then, 2 years ago, certainly. But now you give me an idea, because we're talking about digital omnibus. We are focusing on the question, or at least that's what we have been told, that sectoral laws regarding products. Should they prevail in relation to the AI Act? In other words, should we or shouldn't we include products, regulated products in the AI Act? Yes or no? But instead, the conversation should be more and more about generative AI, because I think it has more and more impact. People use it day in, day out. We already see some negative side effects. People get into a depression because the chatbot talks to them in a way that reinforce their negative thoughts, sometimes even suicide, etc., etc. There are horrible examples. I think also in Italy you had this replica bot,
Yeah.
a chatbot, already an older example where the Garant stepped in.
But the guarantee stepped in because of the data the Replica was using.
Yes, because of the
Because of
data.
how
You're totally
Replica
right.
was using data.
And,
So
and now, yeah, no, because you inspire me, Rosalie, yeah, because the
I'm gonna
idea,
write this.
yeah, and I didn't prepare this, but I think, okay, this is from now on, this is my stance. Instead of talking about products should or shouldn't they be part of the AI Act, I think we should just park that question, because right now they are. So please leave it that way. We should talk more and more on a legislative level about generative AI. Why? Because this topic of generative AI in the AI Act is hardly regulated. It only, I think, from the top of my head, 3, maybe 4 articles. And it basically says, yeah, okay, you have these model providers. And if you have a model with a big systemic impact, there are a few things you have to do. Sorry, yeah?
I will stop you there as well.
Yeah.
As you said very correctly,
Yeah.
that's a generative AI model.
Yeah, model,
When
not
a
system.
generative
Not
AI
system.
model is embedded in any type of system, the conversation should change.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking about ChatGPT being used in a medical way, so to ask
Yeah.
information about your medical status, I can argue that the whole laptop with the ChatGPT on it is a system that's being deployed in a medical function.
Yeah.
So my question is, in that case, does it fall under the AI
Yeah.
Act because it's a system,
Yeah.
regardless of the model and
Yeah.
regardless of how you
I think
regulate the model?
totally right. I'm glad you brought this up. I think if you search for generative AI systems, I think that you will find only one hit somewhere in the recitals. It has, I think, a definition, but it's never used again in the text. So what does the AI Act say about a regulation of generative AI? Not a whole lot. And when it does, it focuses on providers of generative AI models. And yeah, that's not, so you inspire me to say we should keep that conversation going, because back then, 2 years ago, it was really crammed in on the last minute. I remember, I think it was before Christmas, and they had these ideas about, oh, we have to put it in. And I remember that Mistral, they said, no, you are too harsh for us. The rules should be more lenient. And Mistral in the background was sponsored by Microsoft. And all these things happened, like corporate lobby. Yeah, everybody falls for it, apparently. But long story short, the rules are hardly satisfactory. So instead of focusing on all these stupid, not stupid maybe, but to me, less relevant, less pressing issues, which are already dealt with, I think, thoroughly in the final version, like products, yes or no? No, back then we said yes, so it stays yes. But we haven't talked in a very good manner about generative AI and how we should regulate that. So I think the whole thing, commission, all their proposals, and I would say let's skip, because in preparation for the podcast, I prepared like 5 things we can talk about, 5 specific things in the AI Act Digital Omnibus. I would say forget all that. Well, maybe save from AI literacy, but no, my stance is we should focus on generative AI, and we should regulate that more in a smart manner. Why? Because the impact is huge. People from young to old are using it for medical reasons, using it for their political advice. Who should I vote for, yes or no? They go to Claude. They are not going to a website. They are not going to ask their neighbor. They go to ChatGPT. That's how people think these days. And that's what the law has to formulate an answer to. So, okay, I prepared this in a certain way, but you inspired me to throw it all out of the window, and I'm glad for the inspiration. Thank you, Rosie.
It is indeed my pleasure. I will let Jack ask you a question about AI literacy.
Yeah, let's. I will be bringing you back on track. But yeah, about the AI literacy, as we know, the AI Act at the moment says that providers and deployers of AI systems shall take measures to ensure a sufficient level of AI literacy to the staff or the person dealing with AI. What is going on at the moment? What are the institutions thinking to do with the digital omnibus? Are they gonna remove this obligation, or they're gonna amend it in some way?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I was very happy with the original text, which you just explained. So basically, I translated as if you work with AI or you advise on AI, you at least have a certain minimal level of understanding how AI works, what are the things you can do with it, or cannot do with it, etc. Basic understanding. So of course, I give courses on AI together with Utrecht University. And for us, this was a really important way to get organizations convinced that they would need the course, right? Because you have to train your employees who work with AI to get them to this basic level of understanding. So I was a bit negatively surprised when I read that the Commission, they want to transform this legal obligation. Of course, we can discuss what is the minimum level of training required, but still, they want to change this legal obligation more to a nudge, as in, responsibility shifts from the companies building and deploying AI to governance, to the government, encouraging them to do the right thing. So there's no real accountability. Member states, they have to have, information campaigns in place about AI. And I mean, it's a bit, how would you say? It's, of course, it's better than nothing, but it's not like a strong obligation that you have to have knowledgeable staff. And so I was quite disappointment. Council of Ministers, so the prime ministers and the presidents of the EU, they were thinking along the same line as the Commission. So also disappointing. They said, encouragement only to learn about AI. That's enough. But luckily, European Parliament, they pushed back. So in this case, the Parliament is doing a great job. And they want to restore the original language. I think they rewrote it a little bit. It's a slightly softer than the original wording, but at the end of the day, the wording of the Parliament keeps obligation on providers and deployers of AI to have their personnel informed, to get them to a minimum knowledge level about AI, instead of offloading this obligation to governments with just a general obligation to inform people about AI. So my hopes are on the Parliament that their version will prevail in this negotiation. But still, if we think about what we said about generative AI, I'm still learning. I think it is an easy topic to learn, but hard to master. So you can get the basics. You can learn them quite well. For example, there are really good YouTube videos on it, or good books or whatever. But it takes more time to really understand. Okay, what's generative AI? How should I use it, etc. For me, it's a no-brainer that people get knowledgeable about those tools, because they already have such a great impact on society, on our daily lives. So yes, I think the AI literacy obligation should be put back in the original, based on the original wording, and hopefully this will also help people understanding, most notably, generative AI, because like I said, The AI Act is not really silent, but could have done more if it comes to regulating the topic of generative AI.
And one last question before wrapping up. We know that you will be in the CPDP conference in Brussels this May. Could you tell us more? What will you do there?
Yeah, so CPDP, I think it's my favorite conference in every year. It's hosted in Brussels. I think what I really like about it is it's focused on not only data protection, but also the bigger questions about the EU values and how should we deal. I think with a lot of the matters we discussed during this podcast, and I think it has a really nice blend of governments are there, academia are there, companies are there, and I think that's it. The balance between those actors is really well done, and I really commend the organization for doing such a good job. So yes, this year I'm going as well, and I think I have two scoops, so to speak. Most people don't know this, but on I think it's on Wednesday, the 20th of May. I will be hosting a workshop. DG Beetle, will be hosting a workshop together with two very talented master students, data science, from the Utrecht University. And the idea is that we want to visualize EU law. So all these laws, I think they captured, from the top of my head, 30,000 active EU laws, which was quite astonishing. They captured it in data, and 50,000 judgments from the Court of Europe. And talking about big data, what they're currently trying to do is trying to make sense of it all, visualizing it. How can we, if, for example, you are looking for this topic of generative AI, for example, you type in generative AI, but which laws would apply, which cases would be useful to you? And this is a workshop. Everybody's welcome, but it's focused on people who work for supervisory authorities or government institutions. And if they want, they can go to our website to register for the workshop. It is dgbeetle.eu/cpdp26, as in 26. So once again, dgbeetle.eu/cpdp26. And there's the form. You can fill it in, and hopefully we will see you then during the workshop. That's one thing. This is on Wednesday, the 20th of May. Thursday, people can find me as well. At the end of the day, at the end of the conference day, I will be moderating a panel about the Data Act, and I think that's also a topic. Maybe we should talk about it another time. Data Act, highly interesting, has all these promises in it. Should be enabling consumers to get their data from products, etc. And I think that the panel is really great. We have people from a law firm, from academia, from more like a NGO kind of organization, and we have special guests from the European Data Protection Supervisor. So I think that's an awesome mix of people. So that's a panel about the Data Act I'm moderating Thursday at the end of the conference day. So for the people I don't see during the workshop, maybe we see each other then. I'm really looking forward to it.
And we'll meet for sure in Brussels at the end of May. And we'll put also the link in the show notes to register, to make sure that the listeners will find it.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for being with us, Joost. That was very, very nice.
This episode was brought to you in partnership with DG Beetle. DG Beetle helps privacy professionals to stay up to date with the most important European documents in the AI, data and digital space every day. Curious to know more? Check out the link in our show notes.